There are four things I want to do on the front end of this 1981 Kawasaki CSR 650 up here in the control. I want to change the bearings in the steering column. These are probably original, which means they're ball bearing style. I got a new set of roller bearings that came with the bike, so I'm going to change those out. I'm also going to replace the oil seals in the front forks. I've got oil coming out of both sides, so those are shot. They need to be replaced. The other thing I'm going to do is go through the front brake. I'm going to bleed it. I'm going to completely go through that front caliper, clean it up, make sure that everything looks good in there. And I'm also going to check the wheel bearings on the front axle, right and left side. Once I get all four of those things taken care of, I'll feel good about putting this bike on the road. So let's get started. I want to check the condition of this front hub and primarily the bearings that are in there. What I've done is I've brought the front end up so that it's clear of the ground, and if you wanted to just inspect this while it was on the bike, you could probably do some things just to check to see if there's any indication of wear. One of them is just rotate the tire, make sure that it spins freely, make sure it doesn't have any rough spots as it spins around. Check to make sure your axle nut is tight and the pinch bolt on the other side. The other thing you can do is just check for lateral movement or side-to-side movement within the hub itself. Now, of course, you're going to get a little bit because you're dealing with the front end and it's not locked in place. But if you feel something that's pretty severe, pretty obvious, you're probably going to want to pull this and check out what's going on. My plan is to remove this entire wheel, axle, the whole assembly, and inspect it off the bike. I've also got several other things that I want to do to the front end. This bike tire is going to have to come off anyway. The exterior parts on the front end hub are pretty basic, pretty simple. Here's the axle. I've cleaned it up and I checked that, make sure that that was straight and round. That looks good. If you look at this closely, you can see that these are the two bearing surfaces that those inner bearings run on. It's got some discoloration here, really minor pitting, almost to the point where you can't feel it. So I've cleaned that up. That looks good. I'm happy with that. I've inspected all of the other components, the spacers, pinch bolts, and the axle nut. They're all good. This is the speedometer housing. It has a seal right here, and I've looked at that. It doesn't have any tears. It's still supple, still soft. If that was torn or hard or brittle, I would replace this. To me, it's just kind of a matter of what am I trying to keep out. If I'm trying to keep dust out, do I see dust down in here, which means that it's getting past that seal. That looks good. So I've cleaned that up. That's ready to go. I want to test the quality of these bearings that are inside the hub. As I spin these, after I've made a few rotations, they've actually loosened up and they feel really smooth. I also want to make sure that there's no wobble side to side. And as I reach in there and move those back and forth, they feel pretty solid. If you're still unsure, you can actually take your axle, just put it in there. Now the axle is going to move, but what you're looking for is movement within the bearing, and this just kind of helps exaggerate it if it's there. I don't see any movement on this side. That one spins freely. This one's good as well. And I don't see any movement side to side there. So now I can just clean out that hole where the axle slides through. And when I put this back together, I'm going to re-grease that axle, throw some extra grease in there for the bearings just to make sure that they're good and lubed. So I think I may disassemble this some more and do some touch-up work, do some polishing on the wheel itself and the spokes, and then the reassembly of this on the bike is just going to be a reverse of the disassembly process. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching.